Dora Tamana, near Ntloko, known for her remarkable strength and dignity, the eldest of 7 children, was born in the year 1900 in Hlobo in the Transkei. Her childhood was typical of a young girl growing up in rural South Africa. Dora and her 4 sisters had to help with chores on their father's plot before and after school, where they grew vegetables and looked after the livestock. On Saturdays, the girls would go to Idugwa, the nearest town, to sell their produce. When she was just 20, her father and 2 of her uncles were among those killed during the Bullhoek massacre in 1921. After this incident, she was unable to look after the family needs, and she then moved to Queenstown, where she found employment as a domestic worker. In the year 1923, she married John Tamana, a survivor of the Bullhoek massacre. Between 1924 and 1930, she bore 4 children, 3 of whom died very young from meningitis and tuberculosis. The increasing struggle for survival in Queenstown led the Tamana family to Cape Town in 1930, where they rented a converted stable in District 6. In 1924, the Communist Party of South Africa became the first of many organizations that Dora Tamana joined, ostensibly because of the threat to her home. Over the next few years, Dora became increasingly involved in political activities, becoming an executive member of the Cape Town's Women's Food Committee and a member of the ANC. She believed in and fought for the upliftment of women and children, setting up a number of local schemes in the area, such as a sewing group for women and establishing a creche in 1948. This was the Blowflay Nursery School, which is still operating and enriching the lives of children to this day.
Umama iphupha lakhe nomnqweno wakhe ebengathanda umbona omnye umuntu esokola. No. And ebengathanda umbona omnye umuntu engaphili ubomi obububo. Ebenqwenela wonke umuntu aphile, especially abantwana. When it comes to kid, eyona nto, and I think thezinye zezinto ndayibona, that is why wayengumuntu wabantwana isikakhulu, because into ndayibonayo kumama what she believes in imfundo nokuqeqesha abantwana iqala kubantwana besebancinci.
She stands for children must be treated equally, and she stands for women who empower themselves and fight for themselves.
She was the kind of person who was very close to the youth, and in doing that, trying very hard. Most of us come from her hands, trying very hard to build the confidence of doing what is right.
Dora was heavily involved in mobilizing women against the imposition of the pass laws. After attending the inaugural meeting of the Federation of South African Women, she was elected its national secretary in 1954.
That the women make the meetings, and I led the deputation to the Langa administration. When we came there, we asked Mr. Rogers, superintendent, why? He said it's because the government is assaulting the people who must stay here in Cape Town.
However, her tenure was cut short as she was elected along with Lillian Ngoyi to attend the World Congress of Mothers in Switzerland and then to visit China, Russia, and Kazakhstan. The overseas trip increased her status within her community, but also drew the attention of the government. In April 1955, on her return to South Africa, the Minister of Justice banned her from a number of organizations and from attending political meetings for a period of 5 years. She became one of only 5 African women in the Western Cape to be listed under the Suppression of Communism Act. However, after the passing of the Group Areas Act of 1950, it became illegal for black people to live in the same area as white people. As a result, in 1966, District 6 was declared a whites-only area. Between 1966 and 1980, 60,000 people who lived in District 6, including the Tamana family, were forcibly removed from their homes. Their houses, shops, and memories were bulldozed to the ground by the apartheid government. The family moved to an informal settlement in the retreat area called Blowflay, where she built herself one of the first shacks in the settlement. The area began to expand, and as a result of her community involvement, she gradually grew into a community leader. In 1960, Blowflay was officially rezoned a colored area under the Group Areas Act, and once again, the Tamana family was forced to relocate, this time to settle in Gugulethu. The Blowflay nursery school Dora established was allowed to continue, provided that it catered for colored children alone. After the anti-pass campaigns lost momentum during the 1960s, she accepted a reference book with great reluctance, as without it, no African woman could receive a pension. During the 1960s, she endured 2 terms of imprisonment while her health deteriorated, to the extent that she could no longer work, although she continued to participate in local affairs for many years.
In fact, we ended up seeing the importance of fighting what is unjust. It's because of her influence. A woman at that time was walking on a stick. A woman on that time could hardly see, but she could still speak as long as she had a voice. She was preaching what all of us received warmly. In fact, what motivated us is also because she could have decided that I've gone through so much. I've gone through so much heartache, and I'm old already, I must sit and retire, but she didn't do that until the last day.
I can never forget the role that Dora played. She was in Gugulethu, and I lived in Aslan. So I never even reached Gugulethu particularly, but we were fighting all the other cases insofar as getting the women of Gugulethu who worked in Claremont not having transport to come to Claremont, who would have to walk from 4 o'clock in the morning to be at work. And we then went on a deputation before the banning and told that I'm going back to the 50s, 60s, to the owner of the bus company, Golden Arrow Bus Company, Mr. Pasvolsky, he was in charge, and asked that he put buses on the road for these women to come to work and to take them back to work. And as I say, working as a group, as a deputation, he put those buses on. It made it easier for the women. This is a kind of role that we played, and Dora was on the other level, with getting houses and food for the people on the other side.
Whatever she was doing it for isizwe sakhe nabantu bakhe at large, the nation at large as a whole. That was umama.
In July 1983, Dora contracted bronchitis that developed into pneumonia. She then passed away on the 23rd of July that same year. She was 82. Dora Tamana's spirit and her legacy lives on in the community of Blowflay. On the 7th November 2004, a group of 36 women who did not have a place to stay held a meeting in Blowflay and decided that they were going to occupy a piece of land and squat there. The number increased to 52 women. These women were harassed by the city of Cape Town for the illegal occupation of that piece of land. The women then consulted with Mayoral Office of Cape Town for help. The mayor then, Ms. Noma Indiamfageto, signed off that piece of land to the 52 women to put up their shacks. The rest is history. These women are now proud owners of beautiful homes that they themselves helped to build.
They were protesting. They were coming to the mayor and saying, you know, every time they put a shack, they are being bulldozed. They want to build their own homes. They are not getting that opportunity. And I was helpless. Also because of, and that, remember, that time was not the time of executive mayors. That time was ceremonial mayors. So I remember saying to them, you know, your future is in your hands. That community was in need of sustainability. And by having a decent housing, you would in a way contribute in most of their dreams. That community needs to be sustainable and be united as they are. Even if it's no matter how big the group that still remember where they come from or how small it is, I think that group, as the leadership of that community, must continue to strive to have what Freedom Charter is saying. And I'm confident that they will.
I salute Mama Noma India as well for what she did for us, because if it wasn't for her, I would still be where I was and not wanted to be. So I really do salute her for what she did for us.
A children's park was also erected in the area. The Imfundo Cycle Initiative in the area also helps young boys and girls to participate in cycling. Long live the spirit of Dora Tamana. Long live.